Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 2, Episode 9 of FX's Dave, entitled Enlightened Dave. Now, all this season, this is the episode we've kind of been working up toward, right? Because we've been talking about how Dave's behavior is alienating him from his friends, alienating him from his family, messing up his ability to get the album done. And this episode kind of was the culmination of that, right? It's a very metaphysical episode, but like he kind of arrives at his epiphany at the end. And one thing I found interesting about this episode is that it reminds me of an episode of a show that I'm sure a lot of you probably haven't watched, but probably one of the better episodes of television I've ever seen. It was actually close to this one in episode, season and number. It was season 2, episode 8 of HBO's The Leftovers. It was called International Assassin. And I'm not going to go into too in depth about what that episode was about, but essentially it was kind of like the same idea, right? The main character dies, and he goes into this other world where he experiences things that help him gain a greater understanding of everything that's going on and what he needs to do in order to fix everything that's going on. And then he emerges essentially reborn, right? And I think that's pretty much what happens here, to the point where I almost want to tweet Lil Dicky and say, hey, is this episode based on The Leftovers? It's very, very similar. But I know this isn't going to be everybody's cup of tea. It's very abstract. It's very metaphysical. A lot of, not metaphor, I was about to say metaphors, but symbolism. A lot of symbolism. A lot of things that represent certain aspects of Dave's life, right? We see, like the portion once he goes into the sensory deprivation tank is where I think the episode really takes off and where it gets really special, because we start to see a lot of the things that we've talked about in the episodes leading up to this one that Dave's got to figure out and get past. So we're talking about, we see Els in the kitchen, and Dave says something like, "Hey, can you help me out with, help me out with cooking?" And he says something like, "I'm already doing my own thing," something like that, and that mirrors their relationship in real life, right? Then you see Mike come in, and he's like, "Dave, why aren't you cooking? Hurry up and get something done." And throughout this whole scene, I think it's pretty obvious we're supposed to take cooking as like a metaphor for him, like cooking up something dope in the studio, something like that, right? He goes out of there. He talks to his mom. He opens up to her. We see Emma videotaping him, and he says something like, "Stop videotaping me." She says, "No, I'm going to do it anyway." Like all of these things that really relate to everything we've seen in the past episodes that have to do with how he's alienating his friends and family. And then of course we see Gaeta, and I this is my favorite part of it too, because it's really true to life, at least within the context of the show. We see Gaeta literally give his arm to help Dave succeed, and that's who Gaeta has been throughout the whole show. And I thought that was a really good metaphor for how Dave is not just alienated his friends, but how they have the contributions that they made to his life that have gone, I guess the best way, he's not grateful for him. I don't know, I'm drawing a blank on some of these words right now, but I think that this episode is one that is probably going to be a little bit polarizing, I think. I'm not really sure, but I thought it was great. Again, I thought it was just like this Leftovers episode. It starts off a little rocky when you're trying to figure out what's going on, right? We see him show up at Rick Rubin's house, supposedly house or place that Rick Rubin owns, and he runs into these other guys, Adams, like with a T, Adams, and Biff Whiff, whoever these guys are. And we can already see that things are a little bit out of the ordinary, right? Like he's thinking he's just going to come get in the studio and that's it. And they're running him through this whole thing where he has to kind of like get to know himself and get past all his ego, his fears, and all of that, and realize that he's kind of like holding himself back. And then that's what we see once he enters the sensory deprivation tank that they got out there. We see him kind of grappling with those things. We see him, run into himself, this hair, not completely hairless version of himself, but like a shaved chest hair and shaved head, eyebrows, facial hair, all that kind of stuff. Who I think that the Dave that we know, the one with hair and everything, that is outward Dave, the ego-driven Dave, and the hairless version, the no-brow version, is who he is truly inside. And we see him, kind of like almost like coaching the ego, like, hey, you got to get past one, blah, 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 blah. You got to get past all these things because all that you need to succeed at your album is already inside you. And he's like, oh, well, I like that one song. Can you give me that? And he's like, you just don't get it. Like, this is already you. It's already in there. You just got to stop holding yourself back. So he did a lot of stuff. They swung for the fences here. They did a lot of stuff to try to metaphorically help Dave reach the point that he needs to be at. So I'm going to go over a couple of those things. I'm going to go over some things that, there's nothing that I didn't like, but there's things that I could see other people might not like. So I'm going to go over a couple of those things and give a couple thoughts. First off, conceptually, I like the idea. Remind me of The Leftovers. They really swung for the fences. They did a lot of creative stuff. It's one of those things where you just can't sit back and watch it. You got to think about it. What are they saying? What does this mean? What is Dave taking away from this? How does it impact him? You have to think about this episode. And I respect the fact that, there's a show that kind of like subsists on, dick and fart jokes. And well, that's downplaying. It was never just that. It was always more. But it's transitioned from what I believe to be kind of like almost like lowbrow humor, but that's outwardly lowbrow, but inwardly not. If that makes sense. Like it's surface level kind of dumb stuff, but it's coming from a deeper place. And now I think it's kind of like transitioned to what I like to call prestige TV, because you get the jokes every now and then, but as the seasons progress, the joking has decreased, but the quality of the show has increased tenfold. And like I said, they swung for the fences here, and I think they did a very good job. So I understand that that's something that a lot of people probably wouldn't be a huge fan of, but I found it to be really, really, really good work. I thought the ending was really good. I like the Dave having this breakthrough after having this conversation with the stripped down true version of himself, and how he rushes out to get that song recorded. And all I could think about is like, okay, Peanut is forthcoming because he's found it. He's ready to go. So that was cool. I also liked how he had like kind of like little miniature breakthroughs. At least he should have had miniature breakthroughs before entering the deprivation tank. Adams and Biff Whiff both gave him some cool little gems. I'm gonna read a couple of them. Adams said that a loathing. He said he believes that Rick Rubin believes that he has a loathing of where he came from, but it's a fear. It's all you. But a fear, it's all you have. I really butchered that. I'm gonna read it again because that was terrible. Rick Rubin said he thinks Dave has a loathing of where he comes from, but it's a fear that that's all he has. And we talked about this last week. How his parents coddling him kind of made him into the egomaniac, the narcissist that he is. But again, that's all the fear that's all he has. And when he had the opportunity to write down his greatest fears, what was the first thing he wrote? My parents dying. Like, whoa, okay. So that was, I think, a really good line for Dave to think about. And then also he wrote, what was it? Oh, he wrote failure, and then he crossed it out and wrote success. And I thought that was something too, because again, we've talked about this as well in earlier videos. The idea of him understanding his place within hip hop and knowing that, like, this isn't, I'm not normal within this game. There's a lot of pressure on me. Can I live up to it? To not just be an Eminem copy, or to be someone who is like just the joke rapper, like to actually come with bars and be respected. So that fear, I would imagine is pretty large, because that's a lot of pressure to have to live up to that. And then I think Adams, it was again, that said that his humor is his ego trying to protect itself. And I think that was the perfect way to help Dave realize that all of the, not all, because it is partially who he is, but a lot of what he does, the jokes, the craziness, the wild raps, that's all to kind of cover up the fact that at the end of the day, he simultaneously has a whole lot of ego, but a whole lot of doubt. And after he gets into the sensory deprivation tank and comes into contact with his friends while he's in there, that's when he starts to get that breakthrough. So one of the things that, again, I didn't say, I'm not saying I didn't like, but I could see people didn't like, so I might want to address that. I know the episode can be kind of off-putting. It's really one of those things where, like I said, you can't just sit and watch it. You got to think about it. You got to analyze it. What does this mean? And I can see that level of work being off-putting to people, and this episode being a bit divisive. But this season as a whole has been divisive. But I will say this: if you feel like this has been a bad season of television, I won't trust your opinion on anything, because this has been an incredible season. It's just one of those things where it's like if you came into it wanting kind of like really good humor and rapping, and you ended up getting something like this, then I could see you being disappointed. But I will take incredible prestige television with incredible writing and character development and breakthrough moments for character. Like I will take that any day of the week over slapstick comedy. So give me that all day. And then I feel like they could have spent a little bit less time in the Adams and Biff Whiff portion. We got a few gems in there, but I feel like we spent probably a good, I don't know, maybe like 10 to 15 minutes before he gets in the tank. And I feel like we could have maybe shortened that up a little bit and spent more time in the tank with him kind of like coming into contact with people that he knows. Because like for some reason he's in this tank and he never comes across Allie. Why is that? You know, like I figure Allie's the biggest, I believe one of the biggest motivating factors in his life. So I would think that he would have came across Allie when he was in there. So, but I think they probably got some stuff in store for Allie next week. So we'll probably see that. And then we still got, I'm not in the cons anymore, kind of like shifting into just kind of like random thoughts. We did still get some humor, right? So I liked when that woman who was randomly in his room, he asked her for the Wi-Fi password and she said something like "go inward," and he types it in and he says that's not working, and he goes, "Is it the whole N-word, or something like the full N-word or something like that?" And I thought that was funny for two reasons. One, I know somebody who has the word N-word in their email address, and I always thought it was funny because when you say it, it sounds like N-word. So I already have like a personal relationship to that joke specifically. And then two, I like the fact that we can assume now that he took her as saying "go," like comma, N-word, and he didn't question that at all. He just started typing that in, and then once it didn't work, then he was like, "Oh, I thought that seemed a little extreme. Like you didn't say anything in the moment. Like that's the password for Rick Rubin's Wi-Fi password. Like why?" So I thought that was good gag. And then when he has to strip and get to the deprivation tank, like I that had to have been a prosthetic, because I feel like your balls shouldn't hang that low if you're under 75. So like that has to be a prosthetic, and I'm totally here for like ridiculous, over the top, gross out jokes like that this show does incredibly well. I like that they brought back the guy from episode 1, Dan, the one who had his laptop when he got arrested with the weed and all that on Instagram. Like I like that they brought that back around. That was pretty cool. I like when he tried to kiss the hairless version of himself. Like, what are you doing, man? But look at my notes here. I think that like, is there anything else I want to talk about? Let's see, getting the album done. I talked about all the friends that he comes across in there, the comparisons of Leftovers. So yeah, I think that at the end of the day, you know, this is one of those episodes that I can tell some people are probably going to love, some people are probably not going to like, but again, this show is continuing to push the envelope, and I really appreciate that. I really appreciate them. You know, they could have just did it simply, right? And I know that Dave is very involved in the writing of this show, and that he's written. I think he wrote. Did he write? He either wrote this episode or the finale, one of the two. And I think he wrote one or two earlier in the season as well. But I know he's very involved with the writing on this show, and I totally respect the idea of just continuing to push the envelope like that, right? Because this could have happened in a more grounded setting, right? He could have had some real conversations with Els or Mike or Gator or anybody, right? He could have had these conversations. It could have been played straight up. Maybe he goes to Rick Rubin's house and he has a conversation with Rick Rubin that helps him realize what he needs to know. But instead, he went, I could do it in a grounded way like that, but let me do something that's a little bit more challenging and a little bit more forward thinking and a little bit more risky. And to shoot like that with, something that is not easily digestible probably by what they consider to be their core audience, is not easily digestible. The fact that they were still willing to do that, I found it to be really impressive. So, again, I think this was another great episode. If you don't agree, that's cool. Drop the comments in. We could talk about it. I reply to you guys' comments. But, I thought this was a really good one, man. There's so many things that I wrote down in my notes that I didn't put. I have like notes that I keep on my computer screen that I look at from time to time. There's stuff that I put in my full notes that I didn't put in the notes for my screen because there was just too much to talk about. But there were a lot of really good lines, a lot of really good moments, a lot of good things to have to kind of ponder over. There were times where I paused it and I was like, what is it? What does that mean? Like the what was the one I read about a loathing of where you come from, but a fear it's all you have. I paused it after that and I'm like, like, and that's how I kind of, you know, it made me think about the parents, and it made me think about his friends and things like that, and his background and where he comes from, and the whole Jewish thing, and like his place with it, like, and that's where I think this show really elevates both itself and us. But like, who would have thought that you would watch something like this and be challenged like that mentally? So yeah, my hat's off. I can't wait for the finale. This has been an incredible season to me. Like, like one of the better shows airing on, probably the best that's currently airing right now. And it's crazy that so many people are either missing it or not appreciating it because they're not getting as many dick jokes as they would probably like, and they're missing out on a show that is doing really, really high level stuff and putting out Emmy-worthy content, in my opinion. So, like I said, drop those comments in. I'll chop it up with you guys over the next week. We can talk about what we think is going to happen in the finale. We got to bring Allie back in. I feel like we're probably now going to end on a happy note. I know I was saying that I thought something was going to go wrong with Gata first, and it looks like we might be avoiding that. But I'm interested to see what's going to happen with Peanut. I love saying the name of that album. What's going to happen with Peanut? I think he should drop an actual album called Peanut like right after the finale. Like the finale will be on a Wednesday, like that Friday, next Friday, he should actually drop an album called Peanut, and it should actually have like some of these songs that he did on the show, like the one at the end of this episode, that joke song or whatever. He should put that on that album. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you next week for the finale. Peace.